Thank you very much. And so don't forget the little globe at the bottom, which is what I forgot to do last time, and click on English. I acknowledge I was wrong. So anyway, with that, next we're going to go ahead and call the roll. Ms. Marbise, to confirm that we have a quorum, please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Vargas, and we do have a quorum. I would like to remind all board members again to select your preferred language at the bottom of the screen. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that Vice Chair Sanchez has notified us that she will be absent from today's proceedings. All remaining board members are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be taken by roll call vote. With that, Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Birkbeck Garcia present.
Member Bush.
Bush here.
Member Ilo Rivera.
Ilo Rivera present.
Member Gomez.
Here.
Member Lawson Reamer. Member Martinez.
Here.
Member Medina.
Medina here.
Member Shu.
Shu here.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to remind board members to please turn your cameras on and ask that you mute your microphone if you are not speaking. If you'd like to comment, please raise your hand and I'm going to go ahead and recognize you. I'm also going to ask that before we vote, please name every vote, and Marbise, can you please display the voting instructions at this time?
I apologize. I think my screen, I'm having an issue with my screen. Give me just a minute.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Are you able to see the
Yes,
public
ma'am.
testimony instructions?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Awesome, thank you. So at this time, any members of the public that wish to address the board under non-agenda public communication, please dial or please press *9 at this time to raise your hand. We will call on you if you are present and would like to address the board at this time. We have one member of the public that wishes to address the board under non-agenda public communication. I will call you by the last 4 digits of your number. Please state your name for the record prior to speaking. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please self-regulate your time, and I will ask that you conclude your comments when your time has ended. I would also like to remind you to mute your live stream before you begin speaking. Our caller is 5459. 5459. Go ahead and unmute yourself by pressing *6, and you can begin by stating your name for the record. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is John Bodorf with cleanearthforkids.org. I just want to ask the Air Board to take steps to stop the use of wood smoke in the county, particularly recreational fire, beach fires at the California beaches in San Diego County area, and also take steps to from an ordinance standpoint to stop wood fireplaces in new construction. Wood smoke is a very complex mixture of gases and particulate matter. As we know, particulate matter is linked to incredible amounts of health risks, including preterm birth, low birth weight, stillbirth, asthma, COPD, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and many others. Wood smoke also contains a number of cancer-causing chemicals like benzene and formaldehyde and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs. Burning 10 pounds of wood in 1 hour releases the same amount of cancer-causing PAHs as 6,000 packs of cigarettes. That's like smoking a pack of cigarettes every day for 16 years just by sitting in front of a fire for an hour. So again, I ask the Air Control District to take steps to reduce, if not eliminate, wood smoke in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you very much. The next item is item number C, approval of a statement of proceeding minutes for the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Governing Board. Marbise, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item today?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that would like to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided on the screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no hands raised, there is no public comment on this item.
All right. Is there a motion for approval of the April 2022 statement of proceedings?
I'll make the motion, Chair.
Thank you. Member Medina, is there a second?
Chu, second.
Thank you, sir. Member Chu, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Marvis, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, I.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Elo Rivera, yes.
Member Gomez,
Gomez, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer, Member Martinez,
Martinez, yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Chu, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
With Member Lawson Reamer and Vice Chair Sanchez being absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you very much. The next item is the adoption of the resolution relating to the continued holding of teleconference meeting. Marvis, can you please provide the public testimony instructions for those that wish to comment?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask any members of the public that would like to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided on the screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no hands raised, there are no members of the public that wish to address the board on this item. I would also note for the record that we have received no request to pull this item to the regular agenda.
Thank you. Are there any board members that would like to pull any item from D1 to the regular agenda? Or if you have questions or comments, please raise your hand. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Gomez, second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Marvis, can you call the roll, please?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, I.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Elo Rivera, yes.
Member Gomez,
Gomez, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer, Member Martinez,
Martinez, yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Chu, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. With Member Lawson Reamer and Vice Chair Sanchez being absent, that motion adopts the following resolution entitled Resolution Authorizing Continuance of Teleconference Public Meetings Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, subsection E. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is our item number E1, which is a public hearing, air pollution control office budget for the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District for fiscal year 2022-2023. Before I go ahead and turn it over for public testimony instructions from Marvis, I just wanted to say thank you to Paula and her team for doing such a fabulous job in putting this together. I do want to remind folks that Paula has been in her role for 2 months now officially, and has done an exceptional job in doing this work. And so I just wanted to commend you on that as someone who actually has been thoroughly looking at this work and really trying to think about projections for the future. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for the great work. Let me go ahead and turn it over to Marvis and then open it up to board members for comments and then also for presentation from Paula. So, Ms. Marvis.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided on the screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Your testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Shall I begin with the staff presentation, Chair Vargas?
Yes, please, sorry.
Great. No, thank you so much. And I really appreciate your words of support. I also want to thank APCD staff. We've had so many great staff members working on this budget. You're going to hear from a couple of them today, but we have many, many others on the line that are available to answer questions from the board should you have them. And so I just wanted to make a couple introductory remarks before we got into the staff presentation. I'm very pleased to present you with our recommended budget for fiscal year 22-23. And I'd like to note that this is the first evening hearing on APCD's budget that we've held as an independent agency. And this evening's hearing is the first of 2 hearings required by the California Health and Safety Code. So after the staff presentation, we'll be taking comments from you and from the public and asking you to officially open the public hearing on our budget. We'll then return to the board at the June 9th meeting for consideration and proposed adoption of the budget. The recommended budget was posted to our website on April 12th, and we provided notice of the posting and this hearing through our listservs and on social media. The proposed budget is balanced and reflects a total of approximately $99.9 million in revenues and expenditures for the coming fiscal year. This includes 167 existing staff positions, as well as 8 additional positions we're proposing to add in the coming year. It also includes approximately $46 million in pass-through incentives funding for projects that reduce air pollution in San Diego County. By way of background for the public, in March 2021, APCD was reorganized and separated from the county in response to AB 423. This has required APCD to take on additional administrative, fiscal, budgeting, and human resources functions that were previously performed by the County of San Diego. Also, in the last 3 years, the district has developed new programs to promote environmental justice and public health in local communities. Our Community Air Protection Program, which was originally launched in the Portside environmental justice communities, has recently been expanded to include the international border community. So the proposed budget and recommended positions reflect these changes and new functions, as well as fill existing gaps in district programs. Also new this year, district staff developed proposed goals and objectives to help guide the budget and our work for the coming year. These goals and objectives were developed based upon the new policy direction of the governing board, AB 423 and state audit requirements, staff and governance committee input, and existing mandates. Overall, the recommended budget reflects our goals of air quality, public health, environmental justice and equity, public engagement and transparency, and operational excellence in pursuit of our vision of clean air for all. And with that, I will turn it over to our Deputy Director, Mike Watt, for the staff presentation.
Thank you very much, Paula. I'll let Marvis pull up the slides here. Great, thank you very much. Well, good evening, Chair Vargas and board members. My name is Mike Watt, one of the deputy directors here at the district. And as Paula mentioned, today we're conducting a public hearing to receive and consider public comments on the air pollution control officer's proposed budget for fiscal year 22-23. The proposed budget document can be found on the district's website. Details the spending plan for the district under the control of the governing board. The recommended budget is balanced and reflects a proposed total of $99.9 million in revenues and expenditures for fiscal year 22-23. Also, as Paula mentioned, there'll be a second public hearing scheduled for Tuesday, June 9th at 2 p.m. to conclude public testimony on the recommended budget and formally adopt the final budget. Next slide, please. The outline for today's presentation will be a quick review of the district's vision and mission, fiscal year 21-22 significant accomplishments, fiscal year 22-23 goals and objectives, the fiscal year 22-23 recommended budget overview, future challenges and budget highlights, and requested actions. Next slide, please. The district provides the public and the environment, the district protects the public and the environment from the harmful effects of air pollution by reducing toxic air contaminants and attaining and maintaining the health-based clean air standards throughout the San Diego region. This proposed budget is strategically aligned with the district's vision of clean air for all and our mission to improve air quality to protect public health and the environment. Next slide, please. Now let's go over some of the significant accomplishments that we achieved during fiscal year 21-22. The district completed several AB 423 projects, including launching a new website, adopting a plan to enhance the air quality complaint program, and preparing a permitting actions report to enhance transparency and public engagement. The district continued to pursue additional grant funding for clean air projects, such as the $5 million Clean Cars for All grant agreement we recently signed with CARB. We completed the Portside Community Emission Reductions Plan to reduce air pollution in the community in a comprehensive way. We developed a framework for the Office of Environmental Justice to help integrate equity and environmental justice considerations throughout the district's operations. We completed a public participation plan to enhance outreach and public engagement, expanded the mobile source enforcement program to include commercial hovercraft inspections, revised our toxics rule to further protect public health by lowering the threshold at which facilities need to reduce potential health risks, established a process to quantify emission reductions and health risk from welding operations. Next slide, please. Additionally, the district developed an incident response plan, the first of its kind in California, outlining Apcd's protocols to respond to major releases of air contaminants in collaboration with local, state, and federal agencies. We adopted a procedure for supplemental environmental projects to identify and evaluate community-based projects that could be funded from a portion of the penalties received during settlement of enforcement actions. We implemented the board-approved plan, enabling the district to continue its movement towards increasing cost recovery. We completed 8 air quality rulemaking actions to date to reduce risk from toxic air contaminants and comply with federal mandates. And we provided nearly $9 million in grant funding to clean air projects, resulting in over 500 tons of emission reductions to be achieved over the life of those projects. Next slide, please. As Paula mentioned, to further guide the development of this recommended budget, district staff developed goals and objectives, which were reviewed by the governance committee to provide a roadmap for the district's work for the coming year in support of our mission and vision. The goals are air quality, improve air quality in the region to attain all state and federal air quality standards. Public health, promote healthy communities by reducing risks from air toxic emissions that can create adverse health effects. Environmental justice and equity, lift and address the needs of communities most impacted by air pollution by integrating environmental justice and equity across all services we provide. Next slide, please. Public engagement and transparency, support informed decision-making and stakeholder confidence by promoting meaningful public engagement and transparency. And operational excellence, ensure superior service delivery by providing innovative technology and appropriate resources supported by resilient processes and controls to accomplish our mission. More details on these goals and the specific objectives to support achievement of them can be found on pages 6 and 7 in the fiscal year 22-23 budget document posted on the district's website. This fall, the district will be embarking on a long-term strategic planning process with the governing board and staff to guide the development of programs for the next several years in support of the district's vision of clean air for all. I'll now turn it over to John Jayasinha, Chief of Business Support Services, to walk us through the rest of the budget presentation. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, Chair Vargas and board members. My name is John Jayasinha, Chief of Business Support Services for the district. The district's recommended budget summary and schedule of fees for fiscal year 22-23 was posted on the district's website on April 12th, 2022. Notice of its availability and opportunity to submit written comments online or by email and to testify at the public hearings was mailed directly to every air quality permit holder, sent to subscribers of the district's email notification service in English and in Spanish, and posted to the district's social media accounts. The district has invited stakeholders to submit written comments online or by email and testify at these hearings. Next slide, please. First, we will go over the revenue and expenditure by classification. The revenue and expenditure classifications are described in detail in the budget that is posted on the district's website. The district's total revenues for next fiscal year is estimated to be $99.9 million. The district's primary sources of revenue are intergovernmental revenues provided through federal and state budget processes, and license, permits, and franchises, which are primarily permit application and permit renewal fees. The largest source of district revenue is intergovernmental revenues of $64.2 million. Intergovernmental revenues are state and federal grant funds, most of which is pass-through funding for projects to improve air quality and public health in the communities throughout the region. Another primary source of revenue is licenses, permits, and franchises at $10.4 million. This revenue is derived from permit application fees, permit renewal fees, and other fees paid by customers for district services. And the estimated amount for this revenue category includes the two most recent cost recovery fee updates adopted by the governing board. Next slide, please. The district's total expenditures for next fiscal year are also estimated to be $99.9 million, reflecting a balanced budget. The district's primary expenditures are funds to support clean air projects, salaries and benefits, and services and supplies. The largest expenditure for the district is other charges at $45.9 million. Other charges are pass-through grant funding to support clean air projects, such as Carl Moyer, AB 617, Clean Cars for All, and other programs. These clean air programs are described in more detail in the budget that is posted on the district's website. The second largest expenditure is salaries and benefits at $26.1 million. The district staff provide a multitude of services to protect the public and environment from the harmful effects of air pollution. Next slide, please. To ensure critical services are provided and meet district goals and objectives, there are 175 total staff years or full-time equivalents included in the fiscal year 22-23 recommended budget. This includes 164 fiscal year 21-22 adopted positions, 3 new positions improved in March 2022, and 8 recommended new positions. Next slide, please. The 8 recommended positions are requested for fiscal year 22-23 are designed to fill existing gaps in key district programs resulting from the separation from the county and new program requirements. 2 associate air pollution chemists and 1 senior air pollution chemist within the monitoring division to support enhanced community air monitoring requirements and regional quality assurance and quality control requirements. 1 associate air resources specialist within the engineering division to evaluate emission inventories per district rule 19.3 and support implementation of air toxics inventory and rule 1210 air toxics hotspots, public notification, and risk reduction efforts. 1 senior accountant and 1 associate accountant within the business support services division to assist with accounting, fiscal, budgeting, financial reporting, and auditing functions previously performed by the county. 1 departmental safety coordinator and 1 chief departmental administrative services within the administration division to support enhanced safety and strategic planning processes, as well as provide additional human resources support. If approved, These requests will result in ongoing estimated costs of $1.1 million per fiscal year. These costs will be funded from a combination of grant administrative revenue, permit fee revenue, and district vehicle registration revenue. Next slide, please. In this section, we will look at the fund balance summary for the district's general and incentive funds. The blue column shows the projected fund balance for this fiscal year, and the green column shows the recommended changes and the ending fund balance for next fiscal year. The incentive fund balances are restricted and designated for use based on specific grant requirements. The committed for operating reserve fund balance account and committed for facilities fund balance account were established and adopted by the governing board during the fiscal year 21-22 budget processes. The committed for operating reserve includes approximately 2 months of ongoing operating expenditure reserves that could be used if necessary to maintain core programs and services in cases of unforeseen economic revenue shortfalls. For fiscal year 22-23, the committed for operating reserve fund balance account is recommended to be increased by $400,000 based on analysis of district ongoing operating expenditures. Staff recommends that the board consider adopting a policy to set a fund minimum balance of approximately 2 months of ongoing expenditure reserves as part of each fiscal year budget, and will recommend this policy at the June 9th, 2022 governing board meeting. The proposed budget includes a request to establish 1 new committed fund account for financial systems replacement. For fiscal year 22-23, $2.5 million is designated to be placed in this account as an initial contribution to be used to scope, procure, and implement a new financial system. As funds are available in future budgets, the intent is to keep adding to this account on an annual basis as the anticipated costs are expected to exceed the initial contributions significantly. Next slide, please. As you can see by the previous slides, the proposed budget is balanced and represents a baseline expenditure plan that the board can adopt on June 9th and amend as needed. That said, there are some fiscal challenges and uncertainties that the district currently has or may face in the future. First, the governing board and district has made great progress on cost recovery the past 2 fiscal years. It is imperative to continue keep pace with the inflationary cost increases and continue moving toward full cost recovery, given the statutory cap on fee increases. Also, at this time, there are some uncertainties related to costs associated with ongoing labor negotiations with the county. That said, the district has already identified contingency plans to account for any improved increases above what's already included in the budget. Additionally, there are some limitations on grant revenues that the district receives, which includes the following. The grant revenues that the district receives to implement state and federally mandated programs, such as the Regional Monitoring Program, are insufficient to cover the full cost of those programs. This requires the district to supplement these revenues with other funding sources, primarily vehicle registration fee revenue. Additionally, new program requirements are being added without additional funding, such as the new International Border Community Emissions Reduction Program. While pass-through incentive grants provide a great benefit to the community, they do not usually provide enough funding to completely cover the district's costs to administer these programs. These also require the district to supplement the program administrative funding with other funding sources, including the DMV revenue. There are uncertainties related to the availability and amount of grant funding, as they are dependent on annual state and federal budget processes. Also, the governing board and the County of San Diego Board of Supervisors recently approved the district recommendation to extend the services agreement between Apcd and the county for the usage of the county's Enterprise Resource Planning, or ERP, financial system to July 1st, 2025. However, there are still high costs associated to scope, procure, and implement the new separate ERP from the county. Strategies to address these challenges will be incorporated and identified as part of the district's long-term strategic planning process. Next slide, please. Let's review some of the fiscal year 22-23 budget highlights and key projects that are included in the budget. $45.9 million in pass-through funding for projects to reduce air pollution from motor vehicles and mobile equipment, which includes over $18 million for projects that reduce emissions in identified disadvantaged communities. $2.5 million to support environmental justice programs and community outreach, including continued implementation of the Portside Community Emission Reduction Plan, preparing the annual air quality report, implementing the public participation plan, and completion of the border community emissions reduction and monitoring plans. $1.7 million for IT innovations, including website enhancements and new systems to improve program efficiency, such as the emissions inventory system, permit database upgrades, Clean Car for All's web form development, and various other projects across all programs. $1.1 million increase in salary and benefits for 8 new recommended positions to ensure critical services are provided and meet district goals and objectives. These proposed positions will perform duties such as completing EPA required quality assurance and quality control on nearly 400,000 air quality samples annually, support the deployment of additional monitors in the Portside community, and facilitate the evaluation of approximately 100 additional emission inventories annually to support enhanced risk reduction efforts. $450,000 for consultant services on financial system replacement, strategic planning, and business process review to support the district's operational excellence goals and objectives, and $200,000 to implement the adopted plan for air quality complaint response with an in-house 24-hour hotline to enhance community services and facilitate after-hours complaint investigations. Next slide, please. The requested action for today is to open a public hearing, receive and consider public comments on the Air Pollution Control Officer's recommended budget for fiscal year 22-23, and to find that the requested action is exempt from the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act. Next slide, please. This concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I know that we have some speakers, I think. So before I turn it over, again, I just wanted to say thank you and remind the public, I think what Paula has mentioned and some of the folks have already talked about, that our board, that it's been, 2 years of a new governing structure, and that we've started with an audit by the state that identified recommendations for how we were going to address the use of DMV funds coming to our region, and that APCD is well into addressing this audit, and with last year's actions adopting this year's budget, we are projecting a 24.4 increase in fee revenue that is allowing us to reprogram those funds into areas that support emission reductions, monitoring, and incentive programs. And so I am really excited about where we're going, and there's a lot of work that's happening throughout the state as well as we're doing this. And I think the only other item that I would comment on the budget is that we are making sure that as we're looking at budget detail, I think it was on page 22, offered to our executive director, that we are also looking at the new EPA funding or EJ funds. And I know that they are going to be looking at that, but I want to make sure that we put it on record, because there's going to be a new office at the federal government under the Health and Human Services Department related specifically to environmental justice, or any additional federal funding that may be available around this particular issue. Want to make sure that we seek any, but at this point there isn't anything there, but that we're looking for funding everywhere. With that, let's go ahead and open up to see if there's any public comments on this item. And then after that, we'll take any comments from the board. And then we're going to go ahead and make a motion on these two staff recommendations. Marvis?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. We have one request to speak in our queue. However, if there are any additional members of the public that wish to speak on this item, you may do so at this time by pressing *9 or by using the Zoom raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For our speaker that is currently queued, you will have 3 minutes to address the board. Once your call has been unmuted, please press *6. If your call is unable to be unmuted, please self-regulate your time and state your name for the record. Our first caller is 0805. Please begin by stating your name for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please self-regulate your time.
Thank you, and good evening, Chair Vargas
and members of
the board.
This is Diane Tech,
Environmental Health Coalition. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the San Diego Air Pollution Control District 22-23 budget. Environmental Health Coalition supports the budget recommended by staff, and we have a few recommendations that we hope can be implemented in the coming year or in the following year. As you know, budgets reflect an organization's priorities, and it's clear from this budget that the goals and objectives are not just words on paper. EHC appreciates and acknowledges the enormous progress Apcd has made in just 1 year since the transition to an independent agency. We recognize that the transition has created a very significant workload to create this independent organization in the administrative arena and also in the environmental justice and public health areas, as has been described in the presentation. The district implemented significant changes with very limited resources in the past year, and the community, I believe, is very grateful. Some of the key accomplishments include the focus on environmental justice, which has been recognized both locally and statewide, related to the implementation of AB 617 Portside Communities Project and the establishment of the Office of Environmental Justice. The focus on public health protection is evident in the changes to Rule 1210, and the focus on public participation and transparency is enormously improved, as evidenced by the significant changes on the website, making much more information available, and the significant effort to engage with stakeholders related to the public participation process. The budget, I believe, reflects the staffing needs to continue to accomplish these objectives, and we really support the goal of full cost recovery. Our recommendations for future years or this year, if funding could become available, include additional public participation staffing or consultation to support environmental justice and public participation opportunities with Rule 1210 and other aspects of AB 617 implementation. Apcd has made enormous strides in getting information to the public through the increased requirements for public notification and meetings. The information, however, is difficult to understand, and it needs to be presented in a community-friendly and accessible format, which staff have acknowledged, and I believe additional resources are necessary to improve what has already been a big improvement. Towards that end, we also recommend including a public health specialist on Apcd staff. Much of the information provided to the public is related to the health risks air pollution poses. However, it's not always able to be presented in a health-oriented manner that includes the potential health impacts from both specific facilities and the cumulative impacts in those communities that contain multiple sources of pollution. We understand that this is complex science. However, as information transparency increases, additional expertise is needed. We would also suggest additional IT support to implement interactive mapping and imaging for public engagement. And the Office of Environmental Justice funding should include planning for post-AB 617 to ensure that the EJ is a permanent part of Apcd operations. We appreciate all of the work that's been done to create this budget, and we want to offer our support to enable the budget to continue to evolve and grow in any way that the board would appreciate. Thank you all so very much for all of the work that you're doing, and have a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no additional hands raised, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. I was going to take privilege as the chair to say thank you to Diane Takborian as executive director. She has announced that she's leaving, but I'm going to wait to do that. With that, are there any additional public members who have any comments at this time? If there are not any board members that have any comments, recommendations, as it was stated, there is going to be another meeting on, I think it's June 2nd, correct? At 2 o'clock is the next public hearing on the budget.
June 9th.
I'm sorry, excuse me, June 9th, before our final recommendations. Anything else? Member Shu and then Member Gomez.
Thank you. I just wanted to reflect on the comments that were just made, as well as what I learned yesterday at the Hotspots public meeting that we had last night, which deals with the continued concern of overlapping polluted areas. In other words, one hotspot and another hotspot next to it, and the cumulative impacts of this. And I think we are aware of the environmental justice concerns that has raised, and that we know that our communities are suffering from. And that we don't know a lot about that. We don't have the best of mapping of that and understanding of the cumulative impacts. So I wanted to kind of support the idea that we move towards better mapping, and also to have a public health experts in that area, either on staff or that we are able to contract to get that expertise. And you know, last night another caller asked a question. She's an employee at one of these facilities, so and that was a hotspot. So not only is she subject to living within the hotspot zone, but she goes to work in one of these places. So what is the cumulative impact of being an employee and a resident within one of these sites that are polluting? You know, we could deal with these issues. Of course, it was pointed out, you know, when we deal with cancer, there's so many other elements. We cannot yet change our genes, but we can deal with all these other things. And I hope we as an agency know that that's what we have to look forward to do to really help and get our vision accomplished, and deal with equity as well. So I really applaud the work that we've already done this year, and look forward to improving this budget with these ideas in mind in the coming years.
Thank you. Member Gomez and then Member Bush.
Thank you. And also want to echo the appreciation to staff for all the work in terms of how we've been together for such a short period of time, and there's just a lot of good changes that are occurring, and I really appreciate this draft budget. I do also have a couple of questions. In terms of budget allocation, I was trying to figure it out based on the pamphlet that was sent to us. How much allocation do we have for public participation?
So we've just brought on board our public information officer. I don't know that we have that broken out as a program specifically, but we also have additional funding in the budget for translation services, facilitation for our AB 617 programs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Mike or John, if you can point to, well, we do, I'm sorry, we do have the public information office broken out.
Let me interfere for a second. So I think one of the things is that I would like to recommend is, and I think that's a really perfect question, Member Gomez. I think, and this is just my thought, our executive director created a budget based on some of the work that we have all done. But I think as a board, we haven't really created a vision about what our expectations are moving forward. I mean, I think there's assumptions that we have been making, right? And obviously community engagement, public expectations are very real. So I think that the idea of maybe in the future, right, creating an actual community engagement piece for APCD, just like you know, we just created an office for environmental justice, should be a priority for us, and really investing additional dollars. And then as we're looking for more money from AB 617, et cetera, I think those are great opportunities that we're going to have as we're moving forward in the future. I think right now what you're seeing is a reflection of a budget based on we have right now, and not necessarily a lot of prioritizing from a board in terms of what we need to do. And so I just want to point that out, because I think it's really important that as a board, as we're going to be moving forward, and when we create our vision and what our priorities are as a board, and we clearly direct the executive director and the agency about where it wants to go. I think these are the kinds of things that we're prioritize, so that we are able to add additional dollars for those kinds of things. I think we're doing it a little bit backwards this time, because there wasn't that. But anyway, so just my 2 cents.
No, I appreciate that, Chair, and I think that makes sense. So maybe my statements, and I don't need answers right now, because I do recognize kind of like the creation of this plan, but just overall, I do think that public participation, community engagement is very critical in terms of how we're really engaging in how we present that information. I think it's also very much important. So as we move forward, you know, and as we're creating future budgets, or if there is a way to pull for the second workshop, maybe there could be a highlight on that, just in terms of what it looks like right now, just so we're informing the public, and perhaps where we would want to go. That's like a future conversation. That would be something that I would like to see. And the other is, I also do believe, as if I recall, as we needed to create our new website, right? I think we hired a contractor, if I remember correctly, to do that. Maybe if there is a potential to do, not now, but maybe in the future, just an extension of that contract to do more, as you know, Diane Tuckmore was requesting, the representing data in a more interactive way, I think would be very fruitful and beneficial in terms of engaging and informing the public. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We can do that for the next budget as well. Wonderful. Mr. Bush.
Thank you, Chair, and I really appreciate all the incredible work of staff on this. There were lots of changes this last year. We're all, you know, this is a new board, and to see these increases, beefing up staffing and just kind of getting the system going, I'm really excited about it. A couple things I want to point out, and this is on page 14. It's the 2 associate air pollution chemists, and then 1 senior. So really it's 3, and it's for air monitoring. And that's something that so much of the community has been advocating for decades. I mean, what comes to mind is actually, and now he's Supervisor Vargas's staff at David Flores. I mean, that's something that Casa Familiar, community-based organization in San Isidro, had been asking for years and years. And so to see this actually come into place, it's just so important. And getting that feedback on data, like that's going to really help us in the future. Not right now, not necessarily immediately, because we won't have that data yet. But when it in a year or 2 years, when that data really start, or however long it takes to start really analyzing and processing that data, we're really going to be able to see hopefully where we need to invest more resources or target programming. So I'm really excited about that, and just appreciate all the overall work on the budget. I think this is a really good direction. I know we have to be careful about overloading staff too, so just want to caution that, because we don't. There's still some vacancies. and other things that we need to fill. So just want to be sensitive to that. And just the other, I guess, constructive feedback I'd give on the budget and just the presentation is kind of touching on what Member Gomez and Ms. Takvorian said on the presentation of the information, in the mapping. So that is really important. Looking at the budget, I have to say, I think the budget and just our materials in general, because it's such a technical, these are such technical topics. I struggle with them a lot, and I'm still learning. And so more visuals and some of the visuals here, I think could, stand to get more, I don't know, more creative or more kind of relevant. And again, that's not, I'm not trying to knock you on staff. You guys do an awesome job, but I think, as we move forward, like having some more illustrations and visuals would help me, and I think it would help the members of the public too to really understand these issues better. So it's just my recommendation there for kind of moving forward, but really happy with the direction where we're going as an agency, and really want to thank everyone for the hard work and leadership. Thanks.
If I may, thank you, Member Bush. I just wanted to chime in on that last comment. We definitely recognize that, and thank you for pointing that out. We are excited that we're launching a new budget software, a new platform that we're going to be transitioning to next year, which we're excited about. That's going to be much more engaging and provide some of exactly what you're talking about, visuals, storytelling, things of that nature. So we're excited about that process and look forward to implementing that. Hopefully being able to transition at least this existing budget as we come back to the board with updates and using some of that there, but certainly for next year's budget as well. So we're excited about that and definitely look forward to that and appreciate the feedback there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watt.
Thank you. I think, are we the only ones that get super excited about budgets? I know I get totally excited about budgets and numbers, but I just want to say again, thank you to staff, and I absolutely agree. I always, check in with my team, and I'm like, okay, but what does this mean to real people? How do we make it easy? So we'll try to figure out ways, and we'll partner with all of you to make sure that that's real. And I want to say thank you to everyone adjusting their schedules to making sure this is the first time that we have a meeting at 5 o'clock. We did it on social media. We did it on Zoom so that we can have more people be able to access it. And so, we'll keep trying to do different things so that people can participate and engage. As all of you have mentioned, budgets are always tough topics that we have to really try to get out there and get people to participate. But I think the more we have that is a priority, the more we can do with that. And so any other additional member comments before I open it up for motion? Oh, all right. Seeing none. Again, thank you to the team for all the hard work. There are 2 recommendations. So is there a motion to accept the staff recommendations?
I'll move. I don't know if we need to make 2 motions, 2 somewhat separate items. I wonder if we can approve them with 1 motion.
Council, my understanding was that I could do 1 motion for both. Would you like them separated?
That's correct, Chair Vargas. You can do it together.
Yep.
I move staff recommendations on 1 and 2.
Fantastic. And welcome, member. Is there a second?
Martinez seconds.
A motion by member Shu and a second by member Martinez. Maurice, may you take the roll, please? Is Maurice?
And the water.
Supervisor Lawson Remer.
Yes, aye.
Can you mute yourself, please? Thank you.
Yes.
and say hi to Eva Kai for me. Marvis, can you go ahead and call the roll, please, on this item?
Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you.
We can hear you now, Marvis.
I apologize. I believe my headset died. Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, I.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Elo Rivera, yes.
Member Gomez,
Gomez, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer,
Yes.
Member Martinez,
Martinez, yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Shu, aye.
Chair Vargas,
On mute.
Chair Vargas. I believe you're muted.
So, yeah, somebody muted me, and so I couldn't unmute myself. So, I wasn't muted. Anyway, yes.
Thank you. With Chair Sanchez being absent, that motion passes with all other board members who are present voting aye.
Technology is the best. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, the next item is a report from our Air Pollution Control Officer. I'm going to turn it over to Paul.
Great, thank you, Chair Vargas. I just have a few very brief updates. First, this past Monday, the California Air Resources Board released its draft after action review report of the APCD response to the USS Bonhomme Richard fire. And the draft report contains recommendations related to incident preparedness, coordination, response operations, and public communication. All of these recommendations were anticipated and addressed in the district's incident response plan, which was adopted by the governing board in January of this year. But if you have any questions or want to talk about that any further, please contact me. We also released our 2021 Air Toxics Hotspots Annual Report on April 26th and held a public meeting yesterday. We'll be bringing the report to your board for consideration at the June 9th meeting. Also related to the Hotspots program, we held a Rule 1210 public meeting for Pacific Ship Repair and Fabrication on April 26th, and we have another one scheduled for Vulcan Materials for June 8th. We will also have public meetings for NASCO and Superior Ready Mix, their Escondido facility, in the next few weeks, and we will update the board once those meetings have been scheduled. Finally, earlier this week, we released our first community newsletter, which highlighted our Office of Environmental Justice Framework, Public Participation Plan, new AB 617 Community, and the Hotspots Report. We're going to be releasing these newsletters on a quarterly basis going forward as another mechanism for us to promote community engagement. So thank you. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you. And again, I just want to say thank you. You've been doing a wonderful job in such a short amount of time. So thank you for all the great work.
Thank you.
Next item. Any questions for our Air Pollution Control Officer? All right. The next item is our Governing Ad Hoc Committee report. We don't have anything to report at this time. Our next committee meeting is May 26th at 11 a.m. We'll provide you additional information on that. The next item is board member updates. Does anyone have any updates? Anyone? I just want to quickly share with everyone that the draft scoping plan has been posted on the CARB website, and I encourage everyone to make sure that you have a chance to take a look at it. The board of CARB will be taking a look at it. It's going to be coming before the board on June 23rd and 24th for the first hearing. So please, we want to make sure our communities provide any feedback. We have been hearing from our EJ communities particularly. And then last but not least, I'll just say I think that all of us, or all of you might have already heard that one of our fearless Diane Tech-Borden has announced that she is leaving Environmental Health Coalition as the CEO. I know, member 2. I get to still surround carb with her, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna still see her, but we all will see her. But I want to acknowledge her in this space, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to acknowledge her formally at some point because, you know, Diane has been truly a trailblazer when it comes to environmental justice, and I really believe that we wouldn't be here and this entity wouldn't be where it's at if it wasn't for her leadership and what she has advocated for so many years. And so truly, she will truly be missed at Environmental Health Coalition, but she has done an exceptional job in creating spaces for amazing leaders like Member Gomez, like David Flores, like so many other folks who have come up through Environmental Health Coalition, who are doing fabulous work in the community and who are continuing to do great work. And so it's not, you know, goodbye, but it's let's have her do other things. So I told her she can't really retire.
She can run for public office now.
Yes, we need some good ones. So anyway, I just wanted to take that time to thank her. I don't know if she's still around, but I wanted to say publicly that she will be missed in that particular role. But we know that she's a member, very valued member of our community, and we will make sure that we engage her in different ways as well. So that it is 6:10. And this concludes our business for the day. Again, the next meeting for the Air Pollution Control District Governing Board will take place on June 9th, and it'll be another component of the budget hearing. And it will be at 2 p.m. And with that, we are adjourned. And thank you, everyone. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.